So yeah, I'm hoping we could get through fairly quickly. So I'm going to try to limit you guys to about 2 minutes apiece. So your partner may have shared their sketches with you, right? Like screen share it, but yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter. So we're just gonna kind of go down, maybe we'll just go down the list and do you guys get to see a list of participants as well, or is it just me? So it starts with Aisha, right?
Yeah.
So it's alphabetical as well. So yeah, you guys can kind of see the order we'll just do it down the list, and then next time we'll switch it up or something. So
I'll share my screen for Maggie's picture.
Yeah, if that's the way you want to do it, because you probably all have access to your project images.
Uh-huh.
I'd like for you guys just to share like the two larger sketches, which should be on a page. So yeah, I'll have whoever's up share their sketches, but then they shouldn't be doing really any talking. It's whoever's going to present for them, right? And so like I was saying, I'll leave it up to you guys to kind of delegate how you're going to use your 2 minutes or so. But it'll be fairly quickly because there's a lot of chatter that I've had today, and it took me a second to get you in breakouts. So after you present, we'll only have a couple minutes to chat, and then we'll have to go on to the next person. So I'm going to try to keep an ample timer going with like an alarm. Otherwise, we will not get through everybody. So yeah, take it away. Whoever's up.
Question. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody else have questions too? Feel free.
I have Maggie's presentation to present. So am I presenting her presentation, or is someone else presenting my presentation?
I will say that we'll just have you, whoever's up, will be viewing your work.
Okay.
I know it's a little convoluted, but yeah, that's a good question. So we'll just have you screen share your work, and then the next person be Calista, so on. And then whoever is presenting for you.
Okay, so I'll be presenting for her. All right. Okay, just popped up. Okay, so she did a really awesome project. On the left, basically she's showing the illegal crossing of the Mediterranean Sea to reach safety. So on the left, you can see water, boats near a sunset. Underneath, it will be the faces or bodies of the refugees who have died on the way. And then on the right, kind of the same thing a little bit, but you'll see that there's a boat on the water filled with people that are trying to go by. And you'll see kind of under the water, arms and monsters, I believe, that are of the countries that have closed their borders off to them, making the process more difficult. Yeah, and then above you'll see this large eye that's crying, and it floods the boat. So it kind of just shows the difficult journey that they have to take to get to safety. I guess is the best way I can explain it. Sorry, that probably wasn't 2 minutes.
So yep, so that's a good introduction, and then so I still want you to kind of give us some kind of insight on how it relates to your research that you did.
Okay, so basically I'll talk how it relates to my project, I guess.
Not specifically your project, but the research topic you did, which in all fairness is going to be similar to your project in some way, right? But it won't be specifically your project. It's that kind of overlap of whatever you researched.
Okay, all right. So I'll try my best. But the research that I did for my project was I basically put this hyper reality world that blends in with reality as well. And I did a lot of research on that, and I guess I could relate that to hers because like even though the images are very, I guess, dramatic or like I don't know how to like explain it, but it's still a reality. It's still something that like people have to like go through, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's like even though the pictures are portraying something that's, you know, very vivid, very, you know, out of this world, it's still very much reality. I guess that's the best way I can describe it.
So yeah, maybe Aisha, could you leave up your yeah, we'll just leave up your sketch the whole time, I guess. That'll be the best way. Anybody have questions and comments? Don't everybody be shy at one time. The way to think about this is, do you hope everybody's quiet when they're talking about your work? Or do you hope to get some feedback? I'll leave it there. So the big thing too, as we go forward here, is keeping in mind those same questions that were on the proposal. Like, do you even see all these? Did the person that present answer all the questions? Do you have like a general idea of like? Because yeah, you want to get a sense of what the project's about, sure. But in terms of feedback, like, what's something that you might point out that hasn't been talked about? Maybe there's an element that's lacking, right? And either maybe just lacking from what has been talked about from the presenter, right? Like, who's the audience? Like, you know, what are we hoping to feel out of this? There's like a lot of questions that could still be asked, right? So, yeah, keep that in mind. It's just kind of like going over the same things a few different ways. And the point is everybody here is going to have different thoughts. So by opening it up to this large group, it's going to be, I like the word hive mind, or the term hive mind. So that's what I'm hoping these days are going to start to be. So this is going to be like a practice run. As we get into critiques, I start like grading you guys on participation. So be good to crack the buffer, the barrier now. Cool. Thanks, Aisha. And who do we have next? Calista? Calista's work.
So I'm doing the same thing. I'm screen sharing my project, and then my person that was in my breakout room is talking about my project. Okay.
Yeah, so hopefully you all can have your sketch ready so that we don't have to wait too long. Cool, take it away. Who's presenting for you?
Cheyenne was in my breakout room. It's just the two of us.
Okay. Chenyu, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, we're all waiting on you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
All right, you just you only get like another minute or so more now.
So am I going to share screen?
So I'm just gonna say this one more time. Otherwise, we're not gonna get through everybody. So we're going down through the order of participants. Right now it's Chenyu, Calista, right? Everything's moving around. People's names are moving. Going down through, and they're gonna, whoever's next up is sharing their work to make it simplified. There's no confusion. They're showing their work. Whoever is gonna present for them should immediately just take the reins and start the talk about their work.
I think his project is about angel and devils. The devil has a part of angel wings, and he become more and more likely to an angel. And slowly, I think the devil start to gain some features about angels. Then he will have the both characteristics of devil and angel.
Okay, and what kind of overlap or comments can you make between that and your research that you did?
I think the research is a show about the shoulder of angel and devil, and it shows the different character have their different features.
What was your research on?
My research is why human control the world. Because my project is going to show one day if animal and humans switch their role, people will lose their power, and
Okay.
animal.
So, yep. So we want to know your research that you did, but not necessarily your project right now, because your presenter will present your project. So how does that research relate to Calista's project?
The research is talking about why human runs the world now, and it will relate it to my project because I want to say if animal gain this kind of ability and human lost it.
So yeah, Calista, I guess I probably have some questions. Who's the audience here?
I was still trying to figure that one out. Don't really have an intended audience.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, this is seeming like it's kind of like a graphic design kind of aspect. But are you hoping to use? Are you hoping to make it very photographic, like
Yeah.
photo accurate, kind of so blend?
Yeah.
Things? Okay.
I'm not very good at drawing like actual people, so that's why I wanted the stick figure design.
No, that's fine. I'm just these are the questions that we have to be thinking about, right? Like, is it going to be graphic, like it kind of looks, or yeah, photographic? So I guess the one thing that I'm thinking of is I start to think about like religious connotations because, you know, obviously angel and devil has that, but it doesn't necessarily have to abide by that. Yeah, I think the one thing that I didn't talk about for project one is that your image doesn't necessarily need to uphold the exact statement of your project, right? Like we don't need to necessarily read all of these final images and know exactly what they're supposed to be. So it's more along the lines of, well, if this is like a simulacrum based project where you have these different symbolisms there, you should be defining those in your final statement, right? And then embedding those visual components. Whereas the second project, you'll have your project statement and your visual, of course, but we should be able to understand the full project meaning through the visual alone for the second project. So as we go along and talk about these for the first project, it doesn't necessarily, we don't necessarily need to read it like exactly how it's supposed to be. It's more along the lines of understanding like why are we doing this? What's the underlining goal, right? So I just wanted to make sure that's situated if it wasn't clear. Since the day I was going to talk about this, we didn't have class. So.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep going. Hopefully we can get to some feedback. Who's next? Chenyu, right? Okay.
On the last page, that one. So her project was about the whole that animals have taken over society and humans basically demoted to the same standard that we hold animals to today. And you can kind of see that in the second image with where she has humans in a cage. In terms of research, I did research on. I didn't do a lot of research. I did a little bit on trying to figure out like the scientific research behind the. My project's actually based on like soldier angels and devils, so I did scientific research behind that, and the only way I could connect my research to this is maybe thinking the inner demons of the animals eventually took over one day and they threw its hierarchy. It's my thought process.
How about Michael? What do you think, Michael? I'll start calling on people. What questions or comments do you have?
I like it. I think still a little confused on the audience and how we should feel about the folks in the cage in the second sketch.
So it might be a very, very minute critical component that I want to point out here. This is just something we'll keep going over the semester. Even though I'm kind of here to push you guys forward, right? Kind of wrangle you guys together. Even that comment from you, Michael, you kind of answered me, which is fine because I asked the question. But I guess the thing that I'm trying to get you all to do is be more direct with one another, right? So as we go forward, like if you're talking about, Chenyu's work, then be like, oh, well, how, Chenyu, what do you think? Or like, how does this relate to X, Y, Z, right? Kind of takes me out of the equation. So there's, as you guys could tell by now, like I've done probably most of the talking of the class, but this is supposed to be time where you guys are talking and giving your thoughts. So,
I mean, but if I'm talking about her work, isn't that asking her if that's her work?
No, that's why I said it's a very small, like critical element of like me perceiving how you, and I'm not, I don't mean to throw you under the bus because I called on you first, but no, totally. It's just being more direct with that person rather than, towards me, I guess. So yeah, Chenyu, did you get that?
Yes.
So I believe he asked a question. Did you want to respond?
Sorry, what's the question?
How are we supposed to feel about the folks in the cage on the bottom sketch? Like, and who is this primarily directed towards?
In my project, I will make a cage, and people will become smaller and smaller, and people will live in the cage like how pets live nowadays.
Mm-hmm. What I'm asking, like what people? Like who are the people?
Any kind of people, just normal people.
Oh, okay. So just society in general.
Yeah.
Okay.
Society. Yeah, toss it in.
So, as a dinosaur of the class, the project reminds me, and also as a metalhead, because I'm still a big Black Sabbath fan, Ronnie James Dio fan. I have to say that this is very heavy metal orientated topic. If you look on Ronnie James Dio records, he's pretty much talking about things like this one. So the audience could even be metalheads.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully we're ironing out some of the points here for moving forward. So let's cover Ian's. I'm going to actually just start my screen share to try and save about a minute every time by sharing the works for you.
Sorry, to preface, I forgot to do like the two larger sketches, but I know which ones are my top two. So it would just be the furthest one on the left and then the middle one. Sorry.
Four minutes is starting. Okay. Ian, who is your partner?
I had Mallory and Ruolin in my breakout room.
Who was supposed to cover you?
We weren't really clear on that. We just mainly talked about. I honestly thought that I was just gonna talk about their stuff. I don't think either one of them. We mainly just discussed what our idea was. I don't think either one of them picked who was gonna speak for.
Okay. I mean, okay. So it just affects you guys' presentation points, I guess. But do you want to just go ahead and cover yours then?
Sure, that's fine with me. So the main two things that I'm kind of getting at here is that people have their own truth in our society with all the media and people going online and people shoving their truth down on other people and accepting that as the only truth, sort of like a false consensus bias, as they would say in psychology, where they think that their truth is the norm and that everyone should have that belief. And basically, what these two projects are, especially the middle one, it might not be as clear as a reference to everybody, but that face in the middle there is sort of that's the face of a popular Minecraft YouTuber named Dream. He's sort of like an internet celebrity. So what I'm getting at there is that people blur the lines between the character and then the person behind the screen. They want the person to be that character. I don't know if everyone's ever seen The Office, but if you see people going up to John Krasinski or Jenna Fisher, the actors who are played Pam and Jim, you know, they want those characters to be real and they idolize them. And so that's what I'm getting at here is that people have all these different truths, but in reality, there's one clear truth, but everyone wants their truth to be the real truth.
Okay. We've got about a minute or so. Who has some questions?
Who is this like geared towards? Because I see like God quote unquote references. So is that like geared toward worshippers?
Well, the dream element, I'm gonna do specifically like internet celebrities. So that's more of like a demographic of teenagers. So more specifically that one, that's kind of where the audience is at. And then the truth one, it's more general and could apply to a wider audience.
And where will you be sourcing most of your images from? Or is there some inspirations that you took from some books or, I don't know, like you said, The Office?
The inspiration I really got from I took inspiration from a lot of different places. So one place that I went on is Behance, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but it's got a lot of works from a lot of different Adobe creators. And I put that underneath the project proposal that I did. And everything else, there was an anime called Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and central theme of that was there was the ultimate truth. And also, I was thinking of St. Thomas Aquinas. He had a book on ethics, and one of the things that he talks about is what humans really desire the most is to find out the truth above everything else, above money, above love and everything. Our ultimate goal is to find out the truth. And that's what we constantly strive for. So in here, I'm really talking about how people are so desperate to find out the truth that they'll create their own truth. And then they'll start to kind of impose that on other people, or they'll accept that as the one truth.
That is additional theory, but it's not too clear on where you're getting images from.
Oh, the images?
That's all she was wondering. Are you getting these? Are you going to the office and you're taking screenshots and you're using screenshots?
Honestly,
are you going to a magazine and taking photos?
I just kind of Googled like Vogue magazine, and I was just gonna the words there. Sorry, I kind of probably rambled on a bit too long there. I just looked up what a typical Vogue magazine would look like, and so then I'm just gonna put like the character that is Dream and how people worship that.
Yep, and we do have to keep moving. We've gone over on everyone, so just trying to give you guys that precedence that we are striving to move forward quickly, but it's all a learning process. So we got Jasmine next. Jasmine's work. And I think that I should be able to.
Okay, so I was in Jasmine's group, and her images shows like how it looks to look through these pair of glasses, and through the glasses the world looks like bright, colorful, happy, and outside the glasses it looks dull, and it's like representing like kind of like the idea of rose-colored glasses, how with the glasses on you see the world as a better place, and you can it's like ignorance is bliss. Like when you're wearing when you're wearing the glasses, life seems better. And well, with my research, I researched like most like how society affects people, like societal effects. I also looked at more like how society affects adolescents and how we develop as people. And this shows like societies affect how like maybe society is like now dark and dismal, so people have to resort to objects to make the world seem better, or maybe these glasses are given by society to make the world look better because they've messed it up. Yeah, that's still not 2 minutes, but that's what I have to say.
Yeah, so do you know like some of the content that we're going to be seeing inside and outside then? What it's
I think the second image, the glasses are like sitting on a table, and it's like you can see through the glasses and also like out a window at the view of a city. So I'm not sure exactly what you would see in the city, but I know it would be like dark, maybe more dismal, like or like bland looking. And it looks like maybe there's like a beach through the glasses on the bottom one, or yeah.
thoughts.
What kind of like style is this going to be in? Like more hyper realistic or like photographic?
I feel like this is probably going to be more hyper realistic. At least that's the idea that I have for now. I think I'll probably just go on like I think Pinterest just to get some images. I might take some photos of my own, but I'm not 100% sure yet. That's what I'm leaning towards for now.
Is there anything that you would say, Jasmine, that the glasses would be representing? The glasses themselves?
I feel like they kind of represent like our inner creativity almost. Like some people have like a really good, I guess, second eye and can look at anything and create something really cool with it. And I feel like other people, I feel like myself as well. Sometimes we need like an extra bit of a push to kind of, think of something creative. So I guess they just represent just like, I guess, creativity in general, if that makes sense.
I think I think there want to be some kind of more specific. What do you guys think of that could be implemented for that? Like, what could you present the glasses as if it's something creative?
You can have it like a
No, sorry.
All right. You can have it as like a set of glasses. You can have it like have half of the bottom portion of the screen be like half of a house, and you can have window frames coming around. So it's like almost like you're inside your own perception of the world, and then outside, like through your windows, can be the hyperrealism.
Okay, thank you. That's a good idea.
You could maybe do like one of those fushigi balls from like early 2000s, and like instead of having it be a mirror, it could be just the I hope you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
You know what's interesting is the notion of how Mike was saying, the notion of windows instead. What if it's a combination of like window and glasses, and like you're blurring the lines between the two? I mean, you're
That's a
making
pretty
this
good
image,
idea.
right? Even that alone enhances like the reception, because you're starting to, then that starts to really get into this like this fantastical element. You're not really sure what you're looking at, but you know both sides. But the fusion is like where things get to be confusing but interesting. So
Okay, well, thank you.
we continue. Wish I could have, trying to get all this organized well.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Shout it out.
Since I'm leaving now, should I record my presentation and send it to you through email?
We'll probably just have you recap on Monday.
Okay.
Who did you cover?
Konstantinos.
Okay. Yep. We'll see you on Monday then.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Kayla's work.
Okay, I'm presenting for Kayla. Specifically the image on the right side. She's trying to sort of present this idea of like the unknown and how it's all based on perspective. So she's got Earth, and we're looking out into space, into the unknown, and the unknown is sort of looking back. And what she's trying to sort of convey is that we're caught up in this idea of the unknown, but there's a lot of self-exploration to do before we should be concerned with that, really. So that's the purpose of her piece. She's going to do it in a hyper-realistic style, and she's going to source the imagery from Google, clips from films, like specifically space films. And also she said she did some like personal photography, so she's going to see if any of that is applicable. And this is for, she says the audience is anyone who's typically skeptical, but it can also be sort of for everyone, and sort of a general message of like an announcement that we all need to sort of like self-reflect sometimes. And she wants to instill that we should be open-minded. And this sort of, the best way I can relate this to my research was about compromising creativity and personal voice or style. And Kayla's project is about self-reflection and perspective. And when you're making art, it's important to self-reflect and be true to yourself. That's sort of the best way that I can relate the two.
So for like the left drawing, the evolution of man, are you gonna have them walking like Beatles style? I hope someone gets what I mean. I'm really tired. That's just how it's gonna come out. And then I don't know what you mean by like the 5000 BC to 2021.
Yeah, so for the bottom, I'm just like really bad with like art in general, so I thought I'd write it out so people actually get what I was trying to say. So that wasn't an idea in my head originally, but now that you say that, that's kind of like, I feel like it's a funny way to put it into it, so I might consider that. But then the top was just like to show that it's supposed to be like a timeline. So originally on the left, it's supposed to be kind of like an ancient kind of like Egyptian tablet, but I didn't want to butcher it in any way and like even like cross that path, so I left it kind of blank. So I put it up top to like show that's like kind of like a timeline to base it off of.
I'm interested in the one on the right, and I'm curious, how do you guys think you could, she might start heading towards this notion of representing both sides looking at one another on a 2D surface. Because as of right now, I mean, I'd kind of argue that we're looking at the Earth, right? We still have all these kind of planets on the outside, but it's sort of a vague representation as of right now. So does anybody have thoughts?
I'm a little bit confused because both sides of the unknown, I feel that don't understand this is really well, because unknown is one thing and known is another, right? So the opposite of known is the unknown. So I don't understand what's the other side of the unknown if unknown has two sides. I'm a little bit confused with that.
I think I was just trying to like see how creative I could get with it. So I'm still like also myself like exploring like different ideas of what to do. So this is just like a very basic like general display of it, and I'm still like figuring out all the
way.
really
Yeah, that's fair. The way I kind of took it is there's maybe unknown elements of the Earth, like inside the Earth. So maybe it's like you're representing different visual components of those unknown elements of the Earth, like inside of the globe, so to speak. Like deep sea ocean images, maybe we see that.
Yeah, where I put
as the water.
Yeah, just for like now purposes, I just put the Earth there because it was just the easiest thing to put for now. But
Yeah.
that's like the different images that I can find. Like I was gonna explore like the different like ideas.
And also the background, instead of having like that cliche, just like microplanets, it might be interesting to have like a very zoomed in version, or maybe some kind of fade in from, I'm thinking of like, shoot, what do they call those? Does anybody know like physics and astrology, where you've basically got these huge clouds that microscopes have picked up? What am I thinking of?
Galaxies?
Yeah, it's bigger than galaxies though. It's like
nebulas?
Yeah, different nebulas. Yeah, so kind of like having, that's like the, most outrageously contrast, I guess. But if you had that very large in some degree and then the Earth really close, maybe that shows like we're looking really far out, but we're also looking in rather than just the planets. Could be a way to explore it. So Konstantinos, we'll check yours maybe Monday then. Maggie. Okay, who's up?
So I had Maggie's, and Maggie's was a pretty cool idea where she took a more sinister, cynical turn with Pixar's Inside Out, where we go. So the first top image is a picture of a human's head, and we go more in depth to their brain, where we see little people working the gears and the shifts, right? Essentially controlling them. So the human thinks that, oh, we have control over our limbs and our thoughts, but it's actually other influences outside of our control. And on the bottom, you see a similar image, but this is from from the outside's perspective, where we see a human being, but if you look closer into their eyes, you can see these miniature beings moving around and controlling them, right? And I think what she spoke about, how this speaks to how what we think we have control of ourselves is actually outside influences penetrating in a more personal level to influence us without us even knowing about it, right? And her image is a mixture of hyperreality and simulacra, and I just got this from her photo. The summary that she's talked about in the mixture of photorealism and fantastic elements, and how it relates to my research is me and my partner researched about how technology can hinder us from seeing most important elements in our life, and just creating blurs of distractions, just like celebrity gossip or whatever. And I think these human beings inside their head that controls these people are a representation of the technologies that tend to distract us from seeing bigger pictures, perhaps. Yeah. And oh, and if you look in the bottom picture, the background is a utopia, and yeah, I think that's all I have.
You mentioned bigger pictures. Could you clarify what you mean by bigger pictures?
Oh, bigger pictures, as in more significant things that are happening in our world, that we often tend to ignore because of minute distractions that constantly hinder us, with our devices. Every single time you get new messages, every single time there's new news, but they're insignificant news compared to, some of the bigger things, such as like world politics and what's going on with other people's lives. How are we as a generation doing? What about global warming and all those things that we tend to stay away from?
Sure. Got time for a question or two.
I didn't specifically ask about source material, so someone could ask about that.
I guess, sorry, one question that I have is the two images look pretty similar to me. I mean, there's a rainbow in both of them. Maybe I'm missing it. So are there people in the heads of both images? Because they kind of look like the same to me. Just like different perspective wise, one's facing forward and the other is facing this way.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty similar in that way. Like, I almost had the idea decided almost before doing the sketches, and so like I just drew different versions of the idea I had to decide what I thought would work best for the project.
All right. Oops. Already. Mallory.
I didn't have time to upload one. I have the picture right here.
Yep, go for it.
It's shitty. That's it.
Oh,
That's
you.
the thing.
Okay. Well, maybe you can get them in, and then we can do it on Monday. Michael. Oops, I gotta go back. I need a second monitor. And of course, I got a screen share now.
Yeah. All right. Lauren has me.
So his is basically like music creates a dreamscape effect. He said he was gonna take his images off Google. Sorry, I need to think of a way to explain this. I just had like 20 minutes to think of something. But like he says basically music can create a dreamscape, like in the first picture. And he kind of depicts like unideal world on the right on the top picture, and then like the ideal world on the left. It's hard for me to explain things. I'm so sorry. And that it's kind of the same on the bottom picture. Like on the bottom, the headphones are like playing music, and like the sun comes out, it shapes reality in a way. His research is really similar to mine in the fact that, I'm so sorry, media and like music can affect the way we see things. And I'm so sorry, I'm really shitty at explaining things.
Oh no, you don't have to apologize. Just take your time.
Yeah, like I was saying, his research is really similar to mine, where media and music can shape the way we see things. And that's more depicted in the bottom picture, where like the sun comes out and like music helps shape a good reality.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Wren. What is it exactly we're looking at? This is just like skyscrapers then? A person like listening to music, or?
I believe
Yeah.
it.
So it's, oh,
I think it's like he was trying to like do buildings and like, yeah, the headphones on the person. I really don't know.
I'm very artistically limited with my hands, so, but like it's almost like it's just like a regular cityscape. It's almost like I was thinking of using like New York City and maybe cutting off half of that headphone, and where it's not listening to New York music, it's like, oh, just regular ass like boring New York, like just the city skyline on the left, and then like have some sort of feathering effect in the middle where it transforms to like the I Am Legend New York City, like destroyed and stuff like that. So where it's like, if you're having a bad day listening to like grunge music and everything normal around you, you kind of feel like everything around you kind of fits the music. It kind of gives like the beat of the day, like kind of the tone you're kind of feeling. Or like if you're listening to like it's nothing and it's like a gloomy raining day and it's like, it's kind of a shit day.
So the one thought that I had with this is perhaps it could be like you're looking out, right, kind of over the shoulder. Maybe the person's like angled in one direction, and maybe it's not specifically headphones, but maybe they have like a boom box on their shoulder kind of thing.
And it's like coming out the boom box.
Well, in a sense that like these audio waves could then be blended in with a sense of like giving you this illusion of whatever this idealized version of something is.
Yeah, if you go to the sketch prior to that one, I have that idea semi-realized, except a boombox on the one on the top right.
Oh,
it's like kind of coming out of the headphones like as an audio wave, but I guess you could do that as a boombox.
Right, because then it would be more cause effect rather than rather than like, oh, he's looking and his looking is doing it, but instead of that it's like, oh, these music waves, like
how they kind of like part in front of him, like the path he's going down and like the buildings and like normal world's like behind him in a sense.
If you think of like the music as like a flashlight or something, right?
No, I get that.
Quentin. Okay.
So for Quentin's, he took a lot of influence from one of his favorite movies called Inside Llewyn Davis. And both of these images kind of are inspired by similar scenes in the movie. The one on the right is kind of like this idea of the person that's sitting is like they're shrunken, and it's kind of to show this sacrifice or this shrinkage of a creative voice that tends to happen a lot when people are unfortunately trying to find that creative voice, and they have to sacrifice bits of themselves to like meet a certain image. He wants to go with a more photorealistic type of theme, and it's the viewership is like for people in creative fields. We had one of the similarities that I found with his sketches and the research I did for my work was actually who he wants his viewers to be, like the intent he has for his viewers. And it's this idea of thinking about like how to balance what you want versus what other people want. And that actually heavily played out in my research, because my research had to do with this idea of like a perfect utopia or like a perfect image, and this idea that you kind of sacrifice yourself for that perfect image. And that's kind of where I connected our two pieces.
I don't really understand the second image, what it's portraying. If you could clarify on that a little.
Yeah, so there's this scene in the film where the character has to play music for like a producer. And in this, I'm going to sort of edit it so that he is shrunken in this space, so that he's sort of like, the producer is clearly looking down at him. He has to play to impress this guy. He's sort of a slave to like the industry that he's a part of.
Anybody else got some brain sprinkles?
Is there anything you're gonna add to show the difference between them other than like a size element? Like, is he gonna be shackled to something?
Yeah, I'm going to take inspiration from a lot of the other smaller sketches I did. One of which his guitar strings are like ropes that are binding him. So yeah, I'm going to kind of show him shackled in that way.
Nice.
Or like some marionette strings or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe the marionette strings are some kind of music related thing, or I was just gonna say like audio cables, but how you can't really tell, I guess, from a distance. But okay, thank you. Let's keep going. Probably get a couple more in. All right.
So this was Ruolin's two top ideas, and on the left here, you've got the landscape that the person wants to, so the place that the person wants to be at, and then what they're looking at is the place on their phone. So I'm thinking that the idea here is that you don't really need to go, or it's just the person's trapped in the idea that the place that they can't really go to is just in their head, but you can see it on your phone. And then the one on the right here, you've got how social media kind of defines you. And if you read the description, it's like how media tags, so like, let's say you put like a hashtag on a post and all those things, like hashtag living my best life or something like that, that kind of, all these different posts are kind of make up your personality and how people tend to get lost in the composition of themselves, like what it means to be themselves. And that kind of relates to what I looked into, which was more or less like, what is the truth, and how people take their narratives or their realities that they create in their head, and they make that the truth that they start trying to normalize or trying to impose on everyone, or other people's truths are imposed on you, and that's sort of seen as like the normal, like, oh, you're posting, I guess for the right image, oh, you're posting about this, you must only care about dogs, or you must only like your dogs, or something like that. Or if you're posting like highlight clips from you playing video games, oh, this person does nothing but play video games all day. So sort of that blurring the lines between what's actually true and then what people think is true.
How are you going to contrast the good side and the bad side in the second image? Like, what are some good sides of social media? I mean, if you already figured out the specifics for contrasting. If not, sorry.
That's a good question. So, like, it's just like some comments, like the comments will motivate you to become better. Some comments or some apps, some forms, like you feel sad or something. So it not actually some good or bad things.
Not that it's not that it matters what I care about, but the left one seems pretty interesting to me, just because I haven't had any students go about this kind of layout before, so could be interesting to see how that plays out. Perhaps more unique than the duality kind of one that you have. Okay. Safiya. All right, this will be our last one. I'll recap and then we'll finish. We might be, I don't know, we might be able to get through two. Yeah, we'll try to do two. Okay.
So for Safiya's, we specifically focused in on the second one, the bottom one. So it's the main point of it is supposed to be to show that people can become overwhelmed by their image, and it can sometimes be hard to escape the expectations that we place upon ourselves. So it's supposed to be the eyes are like it's supposed to like so the money sign on top is representing like all the different things that we focus in on about ourselves. And then she's using hyper reality to show that people are overwhelmed by what others think of them rather than their own reality of the situation. And she's mostly using Google and Pinterest and personal art to display this. And then the main audience that she's trying to show this to are people who are out of touch with their own sense of reality.
I know this is just on the sketching, but the dollar sign, would you ever consider making that like a third eye rather than just like a dollar bill that's across the forehead? And then maybe like the pupil is the dollar sign?
The dollar sign is supposed to represent the third eye. It is like I put it there to represent a third
Oh,
eye,
okay.
but but instead of putting a third eye, I put money because people kind of, I feel like the image I wanted to show that people sacrifice like their sense of like spiritual self for monetary value. I have a question. What type of images will you be putting on here to kind of like portray like how people think of themselves? The main focus, like the main imagery that I wanted to use were eyes. And it's not necessarily about how people see themselves. It's more about how people tend to look at reality, not through their own eyes, but through others. That was kind of where I was coming from. So that's why there's so much imagery of like eyes and globes, because I feel like eyes and globes kind of give that sense of not looking at reality through your own eyes, but through somebody else's. So that those are the imageries like that I thought I would best display that type of purpose.
I think the top picture is really cool, specifically with the big eye and the eyeballs eating the person out. But I don't understand what's holding the eye up. Are those like human beings holding it up?
I'm not quite sure myself. I just knew that I wanted to represent something kind of pulling the eye itself, like holding it down to something, because the person is trying to reach out into a sense of like their own reality. They're trying to grab their own reality back, but they can't. They're kind of stuck. And I didn't really know how to represent that feeling of like being stuck. So I just drew like, I guess kind of like if I were to like for Photoshop, it would be some type of like sappy material. I'm almost thinking like syrup or like something of that nature. But yeah, I don't quite like know myself what I want to represent that as yet.
I think that's a good question. I think it could be abstract, kind of just maybe stemming in different ways. You could be pulled down or held down or fixed. Maybe there's a fishing hook through part of the skin or something, and maybe there's sap, and so kind of maybe different things. I don't know if that helps make you think any differently. I also want to mention that I've been staring, I'm like trying not to think about this, but this looks like it's floating. Like almost like you took your image and then photoshopped it onto like a background. Anywho, get rid of my squirrel habits here. And then we can end with Wren. Maybe. Do you have images, Wren, or no?
Yeah, my legal name's Lauren Mercer. You just clicked on it.
Oh, sorry.
I just use Wren because there's like 15,000 Laurens in the world.
No, that's totally fine. I would just stick with using the putting your name on things. I mean, it shows here anyway, but this way it helps me learn, and if that's your preferred name anyway, might as well stick with it. Yep. Is this the two? Yeah.
I forgot what order we had to do the sketches, so I would present the middle one.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Lauren's research was a lot like mine, how reality can be, distorted, and hyper reality in the more idealistic society. And so it's almost like a dream perfect world set in the future. I'm in the middle, so like, without modern problems, almost like a dreamscape in the middle with the building, and you're looking on past a river. But to keep it hyper realistic, the plan was to add some of Star Wars elements, like the cantina and how the dome shaped building. I mean, if you've ever watched it, and then kind of keeping it to like, I didn't like that more perfect, or in a way of like, there's this perfect area of the world, like in the second, the one in the middle, and then in the one in the bottom is like kind of around that building, around the perfect world, but it's kind of like a wasteland, like a Fallout slash like Cloverfield Lane ruined society, like it all has ruined and converged onto this one perfect area, while surrounding it is kind of ruined. Not like Star Wars without the war, basically. And like the intended audience are people who see issue with the problems we have going on today, and just adding a little bit of hyperbole to that. So in like, societal issues are away with, and where it's more of a physical space that people are living in, just to kind of visualize that.
And then how does this mash up with your research you did?
The research is just on hyperreality and what people find wrong with society, and like mine, how simple things can change your outlook on the world. And like mine was music, and like how it transforms what you see. Hers is just more on a visual scale, where everything is changed, and it depends on how you really perceive things.
Cool. Anybody have a question? Comment?
It's not. Oh,
Go ahead.
as I was gonna say, yeah, it's not a question; it's more a comment. I really like the idea of the Star Wars cantina, and that's just because I'm biased because I like Star Wars. But I think that's a really, if you end up using that, I think that's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I just couldn't physically draw the Star Wars, so we were just gonna Photoshop that in.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, guys. I think as we progressed through the class, everything got a little smoother. Yeah, and then I'm going to be taking notes, obviously, of how we did this time through, and my next class, and hopefully give you guys a little bit more of a structure, maybe to approach things, plus some overall feedback. So yeah, maybe the next time it's going to be a little bit more productive, I suppose, and smoother, so we'll have more time. So yeah, if you guys had any questions, or if I told you to wait for after class to talk to me in an email, stick around. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday. Only other thing I want to point out is that if we have time, I'm hoping that on Monday we'll have some time to start working on projects. So over the weekend, it's going to also be your job to start gathering content. The one thing I will note, because this happens a lot, so just want to point this out. If you guys go and you are going to end up using Google, I will be doing a scanning demo. So if you have a scanner and you want to be scanning stuff, I can go over that on Monday. But in terms of photo gathering, just from like Google, if you go to tools, you actually have the ability of choosing larger sizes. And this way, it doesn't even show up here anymore. used to just roll over. You get larger resolution images so that when you bring them in, they're going to be easier to, manipulate rather than getting something that's really small. And then when you zoom in on it, it's going to be pretty junky looking. So helpful to have that tool used. That's it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too. Dudes. Hello. Webcams, please. We're going to be diving right in here. Yeah, so we're going to be collaborating today. First class took us a while to get started. And by the time that we started presenting, it was only like an hour of class left. So I'm going to try to get through things a little quicker, more concisely, perhaps. So today I'm going to break you guys up into groups. It should take me probably a couple minutes to get you organized. So you're working with different people. And I'm going to give you guys about 15 minutes total or so. Excuse me. And it'll be groups of 3. So you each have about 5 minutes to present your topic, talk about your project proposal and your sketches with your group members. And it'll be up to you guys to decide, like, point people who's gonna like present to the class your topic and your sketches. We will primarily probably just be focusing on the 2 larger sketches, just for time's sake, but you don't necessarily need to focus on just the 2 with your groups. So yeah, so say I don't know, Alexander, Jade, and Andrew, say they're all together, and they're talking about Andrew's sketches and project. Maybe Jade is gonna be you know, saying, okay, well, I'll present for you. And obviously, you know, then Alexander is gonna have to present for Jedi or something, and then Jedi, you know. So you're kind of picking that up from the start, so you guys have an idea. As you go along, as the person's discussing, if you're going to be presenting for them, you probably want to take down a couple of notes, right? Like jot down a couple of main topic points, so that you have a waypoint system once it's your turn to talk. I will note that the primary things that you should be delivering to the class once we kind of come back, is I guess I went to a different wrong page, but main points are pretty similar to right here, like for the proposal page, right? This is giving us a general overview of all the different aspects. So the thing that I like to make sure that everybody knows about, which I forgot to do last class. This is a weird, I'm gonna stop the share. Oh, excuse me, I keep burping. I like to see your guys' faces when I'm talking, and I don't know why it wasn't coming up. These projects are not necessarily needing, in the end, when you're finished with this Photoshop project, you don't necessarily have to have it speak for itself exactly what it is in your project statement, right? That'll be the goals for project 2. In the end of project 2, because we are deliberately using text on the image, we should be able to read the full image as it relates exactly to like your statement, right? That'll be kind of like one of the end goals of project 2. This project with Photoshop is more along the lines of setting terms for yourself and then being able to execute that abstractly through images, right? So that being said, we still want to make sure we have basic understanding of each other's work so that we can fully relate it to the rest of the class. And then hopefully we could have a nice discussion afterwards. So depending on the time, it looks like we do have a lot more in this class than the other class. Even if we do wrap up and get back together quickly here, we probably only have about a minute for you guys to give us like an overview of their project, somewhere like that. And then like maybe a minute of like, so 2 minutes total, where you go into some kind of mashup between what they're doing and what you did for your research. And I want to make note that some people got confused and thought that they're relating to their project, not specifically with your project, with your research that you did, because your research is an overlap between a couple of different projects, right? So the whole point here is to use that kind of insight and that mashup as a way to start a conversation for the rest of class. So here's the, Jade's doing this project. It's about this. This is her approach. She's doing it to speak about this topic or this issue. She's leaning towards these two different ideas. This one is like this way. This one is that way. And I think it relates to what I was researching because of this, right? That's about the expectation. So as you're going through and you're kind of like interviewing whoever's work you're going to be presenting about and getting them to present it to you is, so not only are you taking a couple brief notes about their work, right? But you're also then in the back of your mind, like the gears should be turning. Like, how am I going to relate this to the research that I did? In what way? It should be something more than like, oh, well, their work's on ponies and I researched, NASA's satellite technology. So I think it'd be cool because then you could show ponies from a satellite, and it's like doesn't really say anything, right? The whole point here is like you're trying to fuse something together that's like an interesting, perplex component that could inspire other people to think in a different way, to give, we're trying to have a dialogue, right? So that being said, I'm going to start prepping the breakout rooms. Who has any questions? Not everybody at once, please.
Do you want us to look at their sketches also, or just go off what they are telling us about what their project is?
Yeah, you'll review their sketches too, because then I think the way we'll do it is like I did last class. I'll just put up the next person in line, basically just by our participant list, just whoever's in order there probably. So say Alexander's on the top. I'll pull up Alexander's top 2 sketches just to make it quicker, so we have less time fumbling around. And then whoever's going to be talking about Alexander's, we'll just dive in, right? It shouldn't be, you should be thinking less about me as like this ringleader and more about like, you are the one in charge of leading when it's your turn, right? And the same thing with feedback. If somebody asks a question or I ask a question or whatever, you should be relating directly to whoever you're asking, right? You guys are, you know, you have the ability at talking directly to each other. It could be easy to forget or overlook, but that's the goal here. So I have somebody down. I don't know. So I had, I think Shija is her name. I think it's Shija, right? Was partnered up with, is it pronounced Midiaou? I can't remember. And Migo, right? Migo? Are you there? Hello?
Is it Midiaou?
Midiaou, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I couldn't remember how to pronounce her name and I didn't write down Midiaou. Who's your partner?
I believe last time we said I was supposed to do Richie, if I'm not wrong. Because the original partner basically signed out, like left the class.
Okay. So you and Richie partnered up?
Right.
Okay. That's making more sense. Okay.
Yeah. But then you also partnered me up with Ben too.
Oh. So Richie, you had two partners?
Yeah, you gave them to me at the end of last class.
So all three of you were collaborating them, right?
As far as I know, Richie and I were collaborating. I didn't know about the third.
Shit.
Right.
Okay. So Richie, are you thinking you need to write two papers or? I don't know. I wasn't, I thought I overlapped a couple of you guys, like to have groups of three, but I didn't realize I put you in two. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it after class, maybe, Richie. I don't know. I'll have to keep going here though, for now.
Okay.
Probably just make in the future, make a live list maybe online so everybody can keep track easier, including myself. So, I think we have two Alexanders, right?
Yep.
So who's AE Gabri email. Is it Andrew Gabriel or what? Or
Gabrielson.
Great. Yeah, your last name. Okay. So I had you with Connor, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but he dropped out.
Oh, he did drop. Did I assign you anybody else new or?
Yeah, I was in a group of 3.
Okay.
With Dante and Becca.
Okay. Oh yeah. And then Alexander Wills, did I talk to you in depth yet or no about groups and stuff? Alex Wills? Hey, did I talk to you about groups in depth or no? Did I
He
assign?
said he has microphone issues. He's typing in the chat right now.
Oh, thanks. My chat is not up. I've got a bunch of other things on screen I'm organizing. Thank you. Okay, anyway. I'll throw him in with somebody else then maybe at the end. And then Benjamin, did I assigned you a partner or partners, right? Or not yet?
Yeah. So you talked to Richie and I after class on Monday about being partners. However, apparently Richie already had a partner. So I'm not opposed to working in a group of 3, but
Yeah, I think that was my expectation. Maybe it was just communication problems, but yeah, I think because the one email I tried to send out, I had the wrong email or one letter was off, I think. Okay. Well, one of you is a group of 2. So any quick last questions before I break you guys off? I'll give you about 15 minutes. Everybody has a understanding of what they're doing. All right. I'll see you back here shortly.
Professor? Hi, you put me in a breakout room that had nobody else in it.
Cool. Whoever it was dropped out.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. Nothing you can do about that.
Well, we don't really have time now. I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it. Maybe I'll just like excuse you from it.
So can I just talk to you about like the project then?
You have questions, you mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
So it's gonna be us three then doing that? It's just gonna be
Doing what?
it'll be me, Ben, and I forgot how to pronounce his name. Sorry. For the group project. What was his name? Sorry. Midiaou.
Oh, Midiaou, I think.
Midiaou.
You mean the like essay?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I told you guys like you'll have it to do on oh, right. Yeah. So hopefully they're because yeah, I told you guys you would present on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully they're sticking to that plan. Yeah, so you weren't going to have to present anyway today anyway. Yeah. So it's all coming back to me. Yeah, I've had a ton of emails and I just was like, well, as long as I tell you guys like in the email what to do, like I kind of shoved it out of my mind, you know?
No, yeah, it must have been a pretty hectic week so far. 2 weeks.
Not terrible, but yeah, just like trying to keep up with all the correspondences and people dropping and starting, and I still think that somebody along the line is enrolled in one class, but then like coming to the other time.
Oh, really?
I don't even know who that is yet, but I've been told that.
Oh,
So,
that's gonna mess everything up.
yeah, whatever. But any other questions or?
No, not really. We're gonna find time then to just meet and work on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was the game plan. I think I just had I misplaced Benjamin's. All right, I wrote down a letter wrong and I emailed the wrong email at first. So yeah, that was the hope though, is like all three of you would be together. So sorry if it wasn't clear, but you guys have time.
Are we supposed to come back or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna go tell my my group members.
Well, I'll call them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll give it another minute. I got a couple bites of chili left I got to eat. Yeah, we got to have priorities. Yeah, you went anyway. I told the other class too, it's interesting seeing all of you as a snapshot here, like before you go into your breakout groups, because everybody's just kind of like droned out, you know, like a puddle of oatmeal or something. I don't know where I came up with that, but, and then you guys chat and you come back and everybody's like, oh, it's like a shot of coffee or espresso. Yeah, so I have been recording this because I'm going to come back and after I read your papers, you know, I'll read your paper and then like watch your guys's rewatch your delivery and kind of use that to grade. Need my handy dandy notebook. My brother's like, oh, let's do this on Monday. I'm like, you know, I teach on President's Day. What do you think this is?
He tried.
I just like to yeah, I just like to grind in like, you think I get work off? How dare you think I'm a normal person? Oh, I'm trying to get to a calculator. So we have a couple more minutes than last time. Not really though. And so beyond Midiaou, Richie, and Benjamin, those people are going to be going on Monday, like presenting for each other because they came to class. They joined the class late, so I'm giving them extra time. Was there anybody else that I talked to that joined late or something that?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, yeah, Alex, Wills, and then who else?
Me.
Jamie. Okay. I also have somebody I think might be joining the class because their name is on the schedule, but I don't, they're not here yet. A Noah. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. If they're in fact also going to be joining, then I'll see if I can have them join you guys. So Alex, Wills, and Jamie. So if you guys already, so yeah, I think that number one, you guys need to make sure you're exchanged your emails, right? Do you have each other's email? If not, just like throw it in the chat and you guys can keep it. So yeah, go about like preparing for that for Monday. And if you already start with that process and I end up tossing Noah in with you guys, he'll just pick up with your topic. You don't have to like choose something new. And then I'll just have you like expand on the paper length a little bit. And I did tell the other group Benjamin, Midiaou, and Richie. I think I said the 600 word, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, looking for about 600. Everybody else should have done like a 400 to 500. So, okay, so those people are not going to be going today. Hopefully I can keep track of everybody. So we still do have quite a few. That's 5 people out of 20, so 15. Okay, so I'll still hold us up to this like 4-minute buffer kind of window. So as soon as I get just giving you guys like this full disclosure, so you know how I'm hoping we operate. Once I get like whoever sketch up, I'll start a timer of 4 minutes. And so the goal is like whoever's going to be presenting for them will give us you have 2 minutes to kind of cover the topic and kind of give us a little bit of some in-depth thought about considerations within this mashup of what you researched, right? And then that mashup like consideration, that should start the classroom discussion, right? So you're kind of like sharing with everybody else, hey, this is what I think, anybody else have thoughts, right? So you're kind of starting that explicitly off. And then for 2 minutes, we'll just leave it open for anybody have, like, if anybody's confused, right, on these different points of the project that's not very clear, either through the sketches or through the presentation the presenter, shout them out. Like, we'll just have a classroom discussion and try to get some more insight. And I know, like, at the beginning, everybody's kind of timid to like throw in their thoughts. Hopefully it'll warm up. The thing that I always like to mention is like, you yourself are probably hoping for like as much feedback from other people on your project. So as we go along, if you have poignant, topics, throw those in, because it's kind of weird, but like as we go with the semester, if you become like one of those avid people that does participate with other people, they're going to feel more inclined to also give you their thoughts. Otherwise, it starts to get cold over time, I noticed, like, oh, I didn't say anything to anybody the whole semester. And then when it comes time to talk about my work, nobody cares to say anything, right? It's not how we should be, but like, it's just this like innate thing that's in our nature for some reason. Just trying to open up the waters here. So any quick last questions?
Yeah, Bernard, will the sketches be, shared while people kind of, speak on the person's, drawings?
Yeah. So I'm going to put up, looks like John is at the top of my list right now. So I'm going to throw his images up off the drive, and then I'll leave those up for that 4 minutes. So I'll also have a timer going. So like, once that goes off, you probably all hear it. Just kind of like a note to kind of wrap up the last topic that was, talking about. It's not like, oh, we need to stop talking. Just finish whatever thought is being spoken about, and then I'll pull up the next images. So that seemed to be a little smoother than I tried to have everybody last class start by putting up an image, and it was confusing, I guess. So I need a second monitor so bad. Share screen. Again, what's the purpose? What's the structure, theme? All these different kind of questions. Kind of be keeping those in your mind, because even if somebody has really cool sketches, whoever talked about it has, a decently clear overview, give you a pretty good idea of what they're going to approach. Maybe there's still something about these kind of like soft requirements that hasn't been talked about. And then, you know, you could ask just to try to help out, making sure that, you know, each other get the most out of their project as we're moving forward. Where did my page go? Cats. Oh, while we're here, I just want to point out that because we'll probably be rushed all the way up to the end of class, as of what the hell is going on there? I like it. So as we get into next week, we're going to be starting to work in class on these different projects. Hopefully Monday, maybe not though. It seems like we'll probably be following up with, you know, more chats. But you notice how this image, for instance, is very blurry, right? Very like pixelated. That's fully because of my process of researching. If you are going to be, you know, you don't think of like a more intriguing way to gather content, if you're just going to be relying on Google Image primarily, or even at any extent, you want to make sure that you're opening up the tools because there is the option to choose different sizes. In the past, you used to be able to just hover over an image and it would just show you the dimensions right over it. I'm not sure why it doesn't do that anymore, but you want to basically be looking for large images. So this will give you a better resolution so that when you open up that image in a new tab to kind of like get that full preview, you know, we have that higher fidelity. And because we are dealing with larger images and photos, like larger project canvases, you want to be using larger images if you can for most stuff. So I think that's the only other thing I wanted to talk about this class. So I might as well get it out of the way. So many folders, so little time. Oh, looks like Alex is back up. On the top, he's on the top. Okay, this is 1, 2. All right, whoever is covering Alex, we are starting up.
Howdy. So basically, quick overview though. His basically a commentary on modern society and how we ignore the tranquil nature that's out there. We tend to focus on the disgusting, ruined industrial areas of society. Focusing on hyperreality, they're going to be using their own imagery. Audience is basically everyone hoping to instill lessons. Let's go back to a more happy place of nature. Their top sketch is more of a polluted landscape with factories and whatnot. In the foreground is a tower, and it's kind of pushed to the side a little bit, and smaller is a portal to a more tranquil landscape, and to help us kind of ignore what's there and focus on the modern society of how it's, even though it's clearly worse. Bottom is from inside a house looking out at a disgusting landscape. You know, buildings ruined, junk all over the place. Inside of the house is a flower that leads towards hopefully better days. The connection that I'm drawing between this project and my own is that basically I see it as nature, not nature, society's kind of gotten a little disgusting, and architects are kind of a little bit at fault at that because they're trying to, ignore the problem. They're ignoring the problem even though they're trying to like claim that they're fixing it, and it's not really working. So we see little pockets of truth that ignore the reality and only make things worse, even though they're basically trying to push these better buildings at us. I'm not great at speaking. I'm so sorry.
No, you don't have. Nobody has to apologize. We're just here to kind of get practice. And then, yeah, could you give us that mashup kind of? I don't think you did, right?
Yeah, I was trying to at the end there. I probably didn't explain it well.
Okay.
Basically, the mashup is that even though society's kind of disgusting, I'm kind of blaming architects for it, which goes back to my problem project of architecture.
Right.
So
Okay.
they're claiming that they're fixing, even though they're really not, and they're kind of making the problem worse.
Yep. I just thought. I guess I missed when you mentioned like your research.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. That's my fault.
So, I do have a note on it. Is the bottom picture a view from inside that window of Eden?
Yeah, they drew it as a view from not from inside the Garden of Eden. It's just from inside a house looking out.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be more of a tranquil house and looking out towards society. So it's not necessarily from inside the Garden of Eden. That's from above the sketch. It's just just from inside a house.
Okay, cool.
Random trash.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just supposed to be junk from just society just getting more disgusting.
One time my brother came to help me move, and he kept asking me every time he started like a new box. I just had pulled my back too, so I really needed his help. And every time he started a new box, he's like, "Okay, what do you want me to put in this, or what all should I put together with this stuff?" And I'm like, "Oh well, label it like living room, whatever." And I kind of gave him different labels or let him know like where I'm going to put these boxes once I bring them in the house, right? And come to find out later, because I wasn't loading all these things, he just put random words and stuff on everything, and it wasn't helpful at all. One of them literally was just random garbage. It's like, what am I supposed to do with this? So I had to open up every box and figure out like, where am I bringing it?
To be fair, you had to open them all anyway.
To be fair, I did knock out his adult front tooth when he was a teenager.
Yeah, that's a little bit of revenge then.
It's coming back.
So are you saying that you deserved that?
No. But it's some brotherly love moments,
Are we able to get context behind that story? I'm curious now.
For what?
How did you knock out your brother's tooth?
Oh, so good story. Just real quick. So we were fighting for some reason in the kitchen. We were getting pretty big by that point. We were like obese kids. Like we were, when we fought around, like the house jumbled up a little bit, right? And at some point, he tackled me, and we were like 14, 14, 12, something like that. And he tackled me. The dishwasher was open, and he pushed me back onto the dishwasher and broke the dishwasher door. And so I got hurt, number one, but also I knew that I'm going to get shit later because I broke the dishwasher, even maybe not directly, but like I was part of the problem. And he laughed. I remember specifically, he laughed and ran out of the kitchen, went up the stairs. And so I got mad. The drawer for underneath the stove was slightly open. And so that was the closest thing near me, like as an object. There was pans in there, right? So I just grabbed a pan, stood up, ran around the corner and like lobbed it because I figured he ran down the hall like to a bedroom. You know, I was hoping I'd like hit him. He was sitting at the top of the stairs, and so it flew and just hit him right in the face. Good story.
Maybe you deserve the boxes being labeled wrong.
That's fair.
Just a little.
Just a little. It's funny, but it's also not funny. So we covered, right? We did Alex. Was it? I think it was Alex, right? We just did. Andrew. The names keep jumping around, so.
Yeah, I have my last name first. So it's that one there.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at several things on my screen. Andrew. All right, let's start. I don't know which one we should have it on.
It's the last two that are the half sizes.
This one?
No, the other direction.
Oh, there's 4. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right, so my turn to do it, right? Okay, so with that picture, a lot of Andrew's stuff was focused, on the architecture and the promises that they were supposed to build, like for society, saying like, if we make this building, it's going to bring out so many more positive aspects of society and do so much more, and it's going to do a lot of things that we would want. It's going to be like a dream building. But there's a lot of underlying issues that get ignored through that, and it's usually not what it ever seems to be. So like with the top part you drew there's the like the corporate buildings and just all the different structures that are built, and underneath there's all the underlying issues, ACAB, BLM, all that kind of stuff that are completely ignored underneath. But sorry, I'm flipping through it over here too. It kind of relates, like when I think about my project and how it sort of can have a tie-in with this, I focused a lot on dreams and the sort of surreal nature, or just sort of the imaginative things, or like how anything can sort of become a reality inside your head. And it kind of relates to the idea of building something like a building or structure that has promise, like up above, even though it does nothing, where in your mind you have this wonderful concept of, if we build this, we can make it more green and help the environment, or we can use it to house people. But most of the times it ends up not doing that at all. And there's still issues that go on that we need to figure out. So that. Sorry, I'm trying to find another talking point.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I liked some of the drawings that were in here. It's a lot of sketching details, and Andrew did mention that he has a lot of, he goes to school for architecture, so he had a lot of, I could see where he has a lot of experience with some of the drawings and the buildings and everything. Really kind of shows expertise on the topic.
I had a general question about this particular picture. If you look at these the spiky things, are those, is that fire? I don't know how to like explain that. Like,
They're supposed to be trees. That's just how I sketch trees.
oh, okay. I noticed that you had like a lot of different like thick marker, and then there's like a thin marker, ultra fine. I noticed that. Is there any particular significance to that?
So I use the thick one as a profile line around the buildings. That's just basically just how I was trying to just, draw profile lines. And then the juxtaposition line, there's the trees. I figured would use a thicker line weight.
What was I going to say? The one thing I noticed Stephen had said, which might have been a mistake or it might be just what he thought we were supposed to do. And it could be a very minor shift, perhaps, but he said that this relates to his project in a specific way, right? But I guess the thing that I want to make sure everybody is clear on is that how does it relate to the research you did, like the not specifically your project, but
sorry about that. I kind of have my brothers run around the back, and it's a little hard to hear sometimes.
No worries. There's a couple people in the first class thought the same thing, so just wanting to re-clarify, just so as we go along, because I'll be reading what you guys wrote, and then I'll be looking at these again and kind of fusing the two. How well do you relate what you've researched? So okay, let's continue. Dante. Okay.
So I'll be speaking about Dante's sketches. So to begin with, the theme and maybe the structure of the sketch deals more with simulacrum. It has inspiration from the Truman Show, and you can see this with the foreground being the water, and this is kind of towards the end of the movie when he finally hits the border, and the hexagonal like border appears, kind of exposing the fake reality that he was in. So at the bottom, he wants to split the Photoshop sketch into 4 sections with an error message saying, please stand by. And then, you have the stage and then the director revealed. And, with this, like, kind of wants to exemplify the fact that reality is different for every single person. And, mental health is a big factor for that. And, I guess he's going to source most of his pictures from Google Images. And who he really wants to target is college students or people whose realities are flipped when they go into, the real world. And he wants to instill the fact that, even though when you come to acceptance with reality, it doesn't have to be bad. It's just different. So, it's a matter of accepting, what your reality is. And the relationship to my research, I would say, is, I looked into destructive technology. And I would say that, you could kind of connect that in the sense that people's reality is being altered by technology itself. And in this case, in his sketches, is a simulacrum. It's a technology that's projecting a reality that's not really there. And for my project, I would argue the same thing, that technology is, in a way, just kind of separating people from their true selves or the natural world. So that's about it.
Cool. Thanks, John.
No problem.
In the drawings, it looks like it's in like very distinct, like separate quadrants. Like, do you think the message is more profound because it's in distinct quadrants, or would you want to be more like blended together?
I would say the separation. I mean, I would say a mix of both, because by having different quadrants, you're kind of exemplifying what was there and what is behind. Obviously, he probably has a choice of, having like an outline of where everything will go. But I guess playing around with foreground and, how everything is supposed to look in distance, it'll be able to like blend in a little bit more and seem like, a simulation itself. So
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what he was aiming for.
Would you concur there, Dante?
Yes, so they will be separated into 4 quadrants, but it'll be one screen. And you'll see the different parts deteriorating in different ways.
Cool. Yeah, and I always kind of like I wouldn't say fixate, but oftentimes the way I structure things out is through lay things out is through structures. So when I see like that broken screen kind of setup, I go to think about using that kind of geometrical structure to then impose upon other content. So we can cover stuff like that as well. I've never had many people use it, but also I don't have it like in my exercises. So could cover that for anybody who's interested. We have Eddie next. Eddie's work.
Mine's actually not posted on there, but I can physically show it if that helps.
I think is there a quick way? Let's see. How about this? What if I spotlight? Does that work? Maybe.
Now you just hold it.
Well, I was trying to make this large, but let's see if I stop sharing first.
Oh.
And then pin. There, I think that's large. Okay. Yeah, hold it up close for a second. And okay. That's not the right one. Okay. I got it. Let's continue.
Am I good to go?
Oh yeah.
Okay, sorry. So Eddie's project, as we've seen in the past 4 years, celebrities and entertainers can become president. Whether they should or not, that's up for debate. Eddie's project is a future where more celebrities are getting into politics. In the future, the people are electing them as more elected officials because carelessness is being led to more celebrities being in power and using their voice. Some celebrities will take politics seriously, and other celebrities, others will not. And as you can see here, we have President Kanye on the moon, really. And I connect this to my research. I researched why the modern world is bad for your brain, and I connected it to mine because as we can get so involved in technology and in our phones, it will be easier to share our thoughts and political views. And as celebrities continue to gain more influence, it'll be easier for them to sway the public into voting for them.
The things to the left, are those buildings or something?
Yeah, so that is the town that President Kanye has created on the moon. Celebrities getting into politics wasn't a great thing for the Earth, so they had to go to the moon. And this is Kanye's civilization that he has created. And as you can see, it doesn't look like a very thriving one.
And so in the corner, that's the Earth, I'm assuming then?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Appears to be very empty, sort of. You know, like in the middle, it's like barely anything there. It's just the ground, I guess. And then on the bottom, are those posters or something?
Yeah, so those are failed political posters from other celebrities that tried to run and it didn't work out. And the emptiness kind of displays how if we continue to elect celebrities, it's not a very good outlook for the world.
And what's that on top of? Is that Earth in the background?
Yes, that is Earth in the background. And it
Like,
is,
what's on top of that?
I'm not sure.
That was supposed to be an explosion. I'm really bad at drawing.
All right, got you.
What does everybody think about the space in the middle?
It definitely feels like a lot of dead space. That there could be something at least happening there to fill up that area.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just that you drew the city really small or if it's going to expand and just the drawing ability that you have. I'm not putting anything against you. It's just it's kind of empty there.
Well, I can kind of see like why he would want to like have it empty to like represent like the barrenness. Where you can kind of get that from like the land of the moon, but like maybe just like I think keeping some of that blank space would be useful with like some stars or something.
I was gonna agree
Yeah,
with that. I
was
thought
about
if the sorry, I
No,
thought
no,
if
no,
the
no, go.
if the space like if you made it look like the background of space, it would be nice to show like the vast difference between being on Earth and being on the moon.
Thank you for that because I was trying to figure out. I didn't know how to really represent the moon, and because I've never been there, but I was just trying.
Yeah, I don't necessarily ever see space empty, a void as needing to be filled, right? Just like we don't necessarily have to have all content right on the screen. Things could be cut off. It's always just good to get different opinions. Okay. Jade. Do we have Jade?
No, but I can do the same thing that Eddie did and kind of.
Okay. Give me a second. How did I do this? I just stop share. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Got it. Give me a second. Takes a second. A little blurry, but that should do. Maybe.
So, ready?
Yep.
So Jade, she wanted to show the beautiness and the chaoticness of New York City, from like the subway systems to like Times Square and like Brooklyn Bridge right there. Her theme was hyper reality, and from my research, I wanted like more in depth of what hyper reality is. And from my research, it seemed like the photos I saw were like showing bright colors and colorful colors. And one artist that I found that like greatly represents what Jade was trying to show was Alexander Chen. And one of his like paintings that he did, it showed like Times Square super chaotic with like a NASA space guy in the in the air, and then like a bunch of cars and stuff like that. But in my opinion, I think hyper reality for her choice is actually a good one for New York City, because as you may know, like Times Square is always packed. There's a bunch of people. It's always chaotic and stuff like that. And it's like hard to, if you never like experience Times Square or like New York City, it's hard to believe, you know. Yeah. Any questions?
I gotta ask. So those lines behind the Brooklyn Bridge, is that like, like a fort, like a field, like a forest? I don't know. Like,
I was trying to like the background of the Brooklyn Bridge, like to add to like chaoticness. I kind of wanted to make it look like an optical illusion in the back, with, like Photoshop, and yeah.
Definitely does look a little bit illusion.
Would they be different colors, or what would be the visual?
I didn't have like other colored markers, so I just kept like the black.
Okay, got you.
What other colors would you use if you had colors?
Kind of not like ordinary, like like purple, pinkish, like kind of like not like the opposite of like a regular sky would look like. Yeah.
Just like a rainbow of colors or something.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like that.
So Jade, are you gonna keep the Brooklyn Bridge, like the texture like realistic? And then kind of like the background around it be like those chaotic colors, like I guess like
Yeah, kind of. Like I kind of wanted to like make each part, like how like the two parts of the Brooklyn Bridge, I wanted to make it like kind of look like different colors in a way.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, and like to pay homage to like Marvel taking place in New York City, I want to include like a little superhero.
That'd be cool.
I know that the picture was taken blurry, but what are those like words, like notes for your thing around it, or was that stuff
Yeah,
that was
like explaining it. Like
okay.
I just want to bring up something interesting I had in my head. I think it was probably starting from this this notion of like having a very similar structure here and up here, right? It's kind of similar but different, like duplicated almost in a quick glance. And it made me think, especially because of these lines, right? And because we don't have colors and stuff yet. What it started reminding me of is like if you looked intently off of like a water's surface, say in a pond or something, right? On a day where it's nice and brightly lit, and all of a sudden you throw a pebble in and you get these ripple effects. Kind of reminds me of like reflections with ripples, right? And then I just started thinking about that as you guys were talking, and obviously a little hard to do in winter, but that kind of mentality is like, well, maybe you could do part of your project in developing your own content, right? Taking your own photo in some way to then bring in and manipulate. I think, I can't remember too. I want to say that I have to review it. Maybe I might have been requiring you guys to do like a scan or your own photo to be used. I think so. I think just plan on doing that because I think that's something. I think that's a thing. It's a thing. Who's next? Somebody pick me, pick me. Jamie, right? Oh, Jamie, you're Monday. Jedi. Jedi. All right. KFC man. Let's do this.
All right. Okay. So Jedi here wanted to comment on our just like hyper consumerism culture of just we just don't care where things come from really. We just like consume. But so here in these sketches we see, the dinosaurs coming back on the right to like save their ancestors from this, KFC. But on the left we have like kind of flipping that. It's Kentucky Fried Colonel Sanders, and he's got the chicken and the dinosaur standing there, just doing the same thing,
Cool. Yeah, I think it's good you dove into Alex. But I do have you down for Monday, right, with your actual group.
Yep.
So
yeah, no, I'm just doing it because I that's what I did in the breakout room.
yeah, no, and I think it's just a loss or a what do you call it? Miscommunication on my part. Because then I was just gonna have you guys omit yourselves from being a point person today.
Okay.
So yeah, well, I mean, thank you for the intro. Do you have anything you want to add to this then? I already forgot whose we're looking at.
Wait, so I looked at Alex's sketches. So would you want me to do Jedi's instead? Because I can talk about this one a little bit.
Sure, if you feel confident in relating your research to it.
Yeah. We were all, me, Jedi, and Alex were in the same group.
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so yeah, he talked a lot about like the Kentucky Fried Colonel Sanders and stuff. So it was like reversing the roles, and the second one was more of like, instead of just reversing the roles, it's like them like also being more humanized. So like the chicken and its dinosaur ancestor, so it's not just a random dinosaur, but like it's more human, and they're trying to escape from the KFC area. And so like my research stuff, I looked into like some mega corporation sort of stuff and how it ties in to hyper reality and that sort of stuff. So like with mine, I'm gonna like be using a lot of like different advertisements and things. So like one of them would be like the KFC and the idea of just how these corporations are like pushing like a not like an agenda, but like a simulacra onto people by like forcing them to like almost follow like what they want to do because they're so big and have so much power that we can't really like control them in a sense.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I do have to mention that I really like the chicken. I think it's hilarious.
I was just gonna say the same thing. I was contemplating unmuting. I have done nothing but look at it this whole entire time. Good job. Amazing.
Which one? This one or this one?
The Colonel Sanders one for me. I love it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, when that picture was first like presented, I just kind of looked at it and I was like, "Oh, that's a pretty cool. What is that? Like, what? Why? Whoa!"
Dino swap. You know, some other things to be considering too are yeah, like we have this context of being in the human world, but if we're switching roles, it could be also to just make up some more abstract kind of components to, you know, aid to the absurdity of their reality, you know, or our absurdity of their reality. So, you know, like what other things might be common for a dino person to be doing, or, you know, um, maybe they're pushing a stroller around with their egg inside of it because they don't have kids. I don't know, just like some really dumb things, you know.
You could have a human crossing the road instead of a chicken. I think that'd be kind of funny.
Yeah, you know, like what other little micro kind of components can you put in here and there? So I think everybody has different approaches and things. The one thing I will note that as we continue forward next couple and next week is, especially next week when we go over the last bit of the exercise, you'll note how easy it's going to be to start blending images together. And I basically make that sort of thing, like using a mask, blending images sort of approach. I more or less make some, I want to see that with everyone, right? As a way of working. So even though, as you can see in this current sketch stage, everything is very evenly spaced. In the back of your mind, we shall be thinking of ways in terms of like how things might be blending together in some fashion. And I know we haven't seen a lot of examples, but just wanted to give you that quick primer. Okay, John.
I did have a real quick question.
Sure.
So Jamie and I were with Oakley. However, both Jamie and I are both set to go Monday. Do you still want me to present Oakley's?
Damn. No, that's okay. I mean, this is not Oakley's though, right now.
No, I just wanted to shoot that out there.
Yeah, we can. We'll have to just wing it and have John present his own.
I can present it.
Or sorry, not John, but Oakley's. I meant Oakley's. Yeah, okay. Go ahead with John.
That'll work. Sure. So for John's project, he's representing a hyper reality, almost like 400 or like 2400 is the year, like the 25th century. And at this point, the Earth is gone because we've exhausted all of our natural resources because of our need to expand technology. But thanks to our need to expand technology, we were able to relocate to the moon and live life on there. But we have to live with the constant reminder that we failed originally with Earth as it burns and is left decrepit, and for us to watch out our windows while we live in our technologically advanced societies on the moon.
So kind of like the Matrix, only we have the option to take the glasses off at our will.
Yeah, but it's almost like we choose to put the glasses on because of what we've done. And a really good way that actually John described it was that it's tech destroyed humanity, yet it saved us at the same time. So it's kind of like it's a cycle, but it's one that like comes at the cost of living almost a natural life.
What is natural?
I mean, like, well, my version of natural is almost
what is like normal.
Oh, I mean, normal is up to preference, but I mean natural as in like you can go outside, which we couldn't do, and almost experience like organic materials, like an, oh, sorry, hold on. Experience like an organic lifestyle, one that isn't almost manufactured like by us.
So you're saying that technology is not natural.
It comes from natural resources to make it, but in the end, it's not, well, hopefully not living.
All right. I'm going to still say inconclusive. Who's got some thoughts?
I have a question. What is the, I don't know which one of you would like to answer this. What is on the other side of the person in the bottom picture? Like the little...
The left or in the background?
In the background to the right of the crumbling planet.
Oh, well, it's supposed to be like he's in his
Yes.
living room, like that's his TV. And
okay.
that's like a window, like to the outside. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
You can see like live, like that's supposed to be the pyramids burning.
Ah, got it. Okay. I just didn't know what that was. Thank you.
So could you also take from this that ignorance is bliss? Like once you put those headphones on, once you put that headset on, you don't know what's going on around you. And frankly, you don't really care because you're paying attention to what you want, and then everything else is secondary.
Yeah, I that's definitely what it is, because that's almost how they got there, because they were putting themselves before everything else, and now it's almost like you have to live a simulated reality.
Okie doke. Thank you. Everything flipped around again. Everything's flipping around. Kristine. Uh-oh. Kristine, do we have sketches?
Yeah, okay, so I first did it on the wrong section, but let me just try to do it again.
I can just switch. Got it.
All right, so for Kristine's, she was talking about social media influencers and like the perception that they get compared to other people. So like on the top picture, on the left side, the left half was like a red carpet setting, you know, people taking pictures of the social media or like the popular person. And then on the right side, it's the emptiness that they feel. So it's like the inside of, you know, their heart, you know, their brain, how they feel about themselves. And it's just emptiness, darkness, just like, you know, it's nothing to be really proud of, sort of kind of thing. So she's gonna go with the photorealism kind of route. The picture on the bottom is more in depth. The left side is that social media kind of producer, influencer person, and then the person on the earth, the right side of the picture is a person that is down to earth, who is actually not a social media influencer, who isn't fake, who is a true friend, you know, because on social media, we know that a lot of people have to do, you know, things, you know, like fake things that aren't their true nature. So basically this picture on the bottom is just explaining how these two people, if they were to meet and, you know, try to handshake, and in this case the handshake is representing meeting, it would most likely result in a failure of a friendship. So it just wouldn't work out with, between fake people, which are in this case social media influencers, and down to earth people, which are normal people. Oh, and for my research, how it relates to my research, since I'm talking about state of flow, what I noticed was in some cases, for the social media influencers, they would have to be in a state of flow to actually either reach their goal of social media to become an influencer. And I noticed that was pretty interesting, because when I was doing my research, the state of flow kind of seemed like something positive. Like people would do it for positive gain, to inspire other people. But in this case, for the reality that we face in with social media influencers, that state of flow can be perceived as negative, because they have to get into a state of flow that is fake, that isn't to their true nature. So yeah.
What are the images or symbols in the bottom right in the down to earth box?
The symbols on the right. Oh yeah. So those were basically like the kind of weaponry that would inevitably be used after the friendship they meet and it doesn't go as well. So you can see it says war, oil, injustice. So like the protests, these people would try to use other means of weaponry to fight against social media influencers who have their head in the skies, who have, such a high ego, who don't care realistically, in their true heart, who care about others, because all they're trying to do is just reach their own goals. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and once everybody presents for each other and you give your mashup kind of concepts, any kind of questions can be right to the person and person's work that we're talking about. Because it might be more specific. Michael.
You got to go
You're
back
still
to
on the other class.
Damn. Feel like an old man or something, Can't remember 4 seconds ago. Sketch 1.
Okay, I had Michael's, and his was basically about the whole stock market thing. Do I need to explain what happened with that? The whole GameStop thing? I won't explain, but if someone needs me to explain, I will. So his images all deal with like corrupt hedge funds, businessmen, and how they originally and for the most part control the stocks and control what happens with it, and then the Redditors changed everything. So the one image has the man in the suit like being like a puppeteer, like controlling where the stocks go, and how that's not really a good thing. And it was interesting to see with my research, because my project, for some background on it, was about how social media and like media and technology puts you in your own little world. So my research was about the generic like media is bad for your brain and here's all the reasons why. And the one reason was that people aren't meant to multitask well, and technology helps you in a way have more possibilities to multitask. So while my project was put in more of a negative light, I think that this is interesting because with the ability to multitask with technology, the common people, the Redditors, are able to socialize on the internet while messing with the stock market, and they have that ability with technology to, you know, ruin the day of people in hedge funds by communicating with each other and saying, hey, we're going to do this with the stock market today because it's going to make people upset. And the multitasking ability of the men in the suits, the hedge funds, they are so oblivious with all of their technology and all of the money that they're making that they didn't see this coming, even though it was going to happen eventually. And yes, that's all I have to say. Any questions?
So are you kind of saying that social media can like give the common people a way to like take back control?
That's what I kind of took from it, basing it around my research and what my project was. I don't know if that's specifically what Michael is going for, but that's what I was seeing from what I was taking from my own research and my own project.
Hey, hey, Michael, do you have any secondary thoughts for our project, or was this the main approach? Because it looks like they're all pretty similar, but
yeah, this is like the main approach. Well, this is as far as I've gotten. Like I've only did one sketch so far, like working on the second one right now.
But the concept, your proposal was around this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, just out of fairness, project 2 is a graphical approach. You know, we're using type, and the requirements are to choose something political and something with technology and mash them together. So this is like better than a lot of proposals for project 2. So it could be worth putting that in your back pocket, and you're not necessarily wasting time because then it's already kind of done for project 2, but that would be more work for now. Just as a.
So would you want me like to change my proposal?
I'm not saying you have to, but I'm telling you that if you do this for this project, your second project's almost gonna be the same exact thing with a different program.
Okay.
So you might not get as much out of the class.
I got you.
I think it would be a really good one for project 2. So
all right,
it's up to you. You know, you could even browse project 2 page and double check if you want for that clarity.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Didn't mean to shoot you down, but it's good for project 2.
Yeah. I think you should definitely do this in a hyper realistic manner and then just post it on Wall Street Bets. You get lots of upvotes and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you could totally, if you're really, really interested, I mean, you could do it in 2 different ways, the same thing, you know, same project, 2 different projects, same approach, different ways. This could be very visual, you know, image based, not so much dealing with type. And then the second one could be, and honestly, that could be a really interesting thing to present on like a portfolio, you know, 2 drastically different approaches, programs, you know, but then it's the same concept. So some thoughts to think about. And almost have time for 2 more, but not quite, maybe. Mohammed.
So basically this was an approach where she wanted to showcase like a state of flow, uh, almost like that little zone that people get into when they are in into something that they're genuinely like well they're good at. At a certain point it just becomes secondhand nature, and like your muscles, like it's as simple as riding a bike or something like that. I don't know if anybody watched the movie Soul, but it's kind of like being in that little zone that they showcase in there. And he was trying to use fantastical elements to it, because there's different sketches, and some of them showcase something where like you literally have like a drawing of a literal state of flow, where you have people floating in the backgrounds and moving along. I guess it just showcases like a human story, and how we are, and when we get into little things. It somewhat relates to what I had in mind, like for my own project as well. Like mine's not necessarily individual human stories, but like as a whole, of people like overseas, for instance. But yeah, no, it's mostly, he was mostly trying to focus on athletes and doctors and singers and so on and so forth, like things that would require you to really focus in and practice over and over until you get it down.
I guess with these drawings, this could go to Mohammed or Midiaou. You could answer it. Like, what do you hope to instill? I guess just representing like a state of flow to whoever your audience is.
At least from what I took away from it, there's more so like to be inspired, like to get like almost like a wow when looking at it, like feeling like, yeah, this is what I feel like, or people could relate to something like this, saying that, yeah, this is me, or this is people I know whenever they're doing something that they love, or when they are at the zones. It's a perfect representation of that.
Mm.
Well, we'll call it there maybe. Points of reference. I talked to you guys about starting to gather content. Maybe be thinking about like how you could take some sort of photo to use. I wouldn't worry about the photo thing. You know, you could always like take a photo for texture or something to add in. What else? We're going to finish up everybody else on Monday, as well as finishing the Photoshop exercise. So over the weekend, I know some of you didn't get to go today, but over the weekend, I'd be making sure you're trying to finalize ideas. Even those that entered the class a little bit late, you want to use the time to catch up and make sure you're kind of at the same point as everybody else as of Monday, like after you present your stuff. So that ideally we finish Monday and you have basically all the tools you need to start your project. because time will go by quick. I'll get the schedule updated by tomorrow. I'm going to do it out a couple weeks so that everybody has a clear path to like when this is due. It's pretty close right now. It's just like the dates and stuff need to be changed. Any other class questions or concerns while we have a second?
So I guess a question about the photo. Would you count a rendering that we create on our own as a photo?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all photos that you guys bring in, the expectation is that they are all modified. So, you know, cropped out, whatever, all these different things. Yeah, good question. Well, I think that's all for me. That's all, folks. That's all.